And we are back with Chapter 7. This is where the story really continues to take a turn. We've already had kind of the trials and tribulations of Norristown. This is where your personal life kind of takes a big turn, and it gets very difficult. The first thing I kind of want to bring up is all of a sudden you're in a totally different world where taking a piss test is a regular part of life.
Yeah. My 12th grade year, a senior in high school, I was being recruited by major Division I schools, right, to play football.
Yeah.
And I narrowed it down at Pitt University, and it was awesome. I went for a visit. I was on campus. I was in the locker room. I was on the football field. It was amazing. I felt a huge sense of gratitude, knowing that I was going to get out of Norristown because of my athletic ability, right? So I'm on this campus, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm watching Tim Brown play, Louis Riddick play, right? Craig Ironhead Hayward play. And, my whole life was just, it was okay. All the stuff that I was dealing with before that, it was okay because I was ready to leave it behind. And so I came back to school, right? Told all my friends about it. Hey, man, it was great. I can't wait to, leave Norristown to go to college and play football for the University of Pittsburgh. And, I was a running back and free safety. And, when you get to college, they'll put you where they want to put you. And I was just looking forward to being on a team and playing with hopes of making it to the NFL one day. So, long story short, my girlfriend at the time was being sexually harassed by a guy named Tony, right? And he would squeeze her ass every day in gym class. And she came to me and said, hey, please tell him to stop. And I didn't know the guy. I knew his brother. I was friends with his brother. I knew the whole family were black belts. That's what I was told. We were over their home during football camp in the summer, and we saw a bunch of trophies. So I just assumed the stories were true. And he played on my football team. It was
the older brother did.
The brother did, Jerry, yeah. And so what's crazy is I didn't know who his brother was, and I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? I told my girlfriend at the time, Kathy, I told her, I said, listen, go tell the gym teacher. That's not my problem. She was really, at that point, she was heavy on me. Right? Please don't leave me, right? Because my parents couldn't afford to take me out to that college, right, to see the University of Pittsburgh. So her parents volunteered to take me out there because her mother went to St. Mary's, right, and her father went to Notre Dame. And so when Notre Dame were playing Pitt that year, they decided to drive me out. I got 3 more tickets. The coach gave me 3 more tickets to the game, and it was great. I had to stay in a hotel with her father, sleep in the same bed with her father. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. But she experienced that same thing that I did, being on a college football campus, and being in the stadium, listening to the crowd, and knowing that her boyfriend at that time, the following year, was going to be a player on that field, right? So when we got back to Norristown, she was just like, please don't leave me, crying. Who are you to leave me? You shouldn't leave me. Don't leave me. And it just weighed heavily on me. And it caused a lot of stress and depression. So then one day, she comes to me and says, hey, can you tell Tony to leave me alone? He keeps squeezing my ass in gym class. Now, I don't know, if she set me up or all that. I don't think she would do that. But the fact that, she, in one ear, she's like, please don't leave me. Don't go to college and play football. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. And then the next, she's, telling me this guy is messing with her. Like, I'm thinking, I don't know if she's wants me to, like, show how much I love her. Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not my problem. Tell the gym teacher. That's the protocol. Right? Is it not?
No, it is. It is, yeah.
Right. So one day after school, Tony came up to me, and he was like, yo, man, he got all in my face, And he was like, I hear you're looking for me. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know who you are. And that really should have been the end of it, right? I hear you're looking for me. I don't know who you are. End of story.
Yep.
Instead, he spit in my face and he smacked me. And I said, fuck this, man. I walked away, right? He came running in front of me, did this karate move. I ducked, bow, hit him, one punch.
In the jaw?
In the jaw. I was rushed into the disciplinarian's office, who was one of my coaches, football coaches. It was startling because I didn't think he believed me, my story of what happened, and there were witnesses. I just didn't think he believed me, and that was scary. Like, I'm the star of the team. How can you not believe me? I'm the captain, right? I'm the guy. I tell you, I was never in my life as scared as I was the day the cops knocked on my door, read me my rights, and arrested me. They took me in, fingerprinted me. I was being charged for assault.
This was one of my questions. Like, why is it even in your mind that you're potentially going to prison for a fight, a one-punch fight?
Yeah. Affluent white kid, poor black kid. That's the beginning of it. And then it goes on, right? He lied, right? Later in the story, you'll find out that he lied. He told the police that I walked up to him out of the blue and punched him.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So we go to court, right? We deal with the preliminary hearing, which, you're supposed to go in to this magistrate to see if there's enough evidence to proceed to court. And you have an option, right? As a defendant, you could waive your right to a preliminary hearing. And this white lady comes up to me and she's like, hey, are you the Bazemores? Like, frantically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you'll read that in the
I remember it in the book, and I this is a question I had.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? A setup?
I believe so, right? Why would a lady out of the blue come up and say, hey, you don't want to do a preliminary hearing?
Yeah.
Where the evidence is there, right? The witnesses showed up, but she was adamant. You don't want to do this. The best way to get through this, the best way to, move on with your life is waive your preliminary hearing, your right to a preliminary hearing, and then go to court. Take it to court. You got to. And so my mom and I, with my Uncle Nabob, we're ignorant to the judicial system. We don't understand policy and process. And so I went in and I did what she said because she assured my mom this was the right thing to do, right? I have a football career online. I'm going to be the first person in my immediate family to go to college, right? So I have a lot of people relying on me to be the guy. And so I go in, waive my right, ended up in court, right? The big courts. But before that, I got expelled from high school.
And worse,
the scholarship that I was going to use to play football at the University of Pittsburgh was rescinded. There was no chance of me going anywhere.
That is so much worse than my experience of potentially getting a rejection letter, from a reach school.
I was so close. I was so close to my dream, and my whole life came crashing down. Now, all that is what it is. The worst part of that entire story is that I had to go tell my grandmother. I had to tell my grandmother what happened. I told her that, the boy hit me, spit on me, went to hit me again. I defended myself, right? I was being charged. I was looking at 15 years in prison. And my scholarship, which she was so proud of me. She was so thankful that one of her grandchildren were going to be, a college football player, as seen on TV, so to speak. That's kind of cool, right? And I had to tell her that was over. And I had to tell her why. And she said to me, and remember, this is no fault of my own. This happened to me.
Yeah.
She said to me, baby, you broke my mom's heart. I thought you were going to go play that football. Right? That's how she spoke.
Play that football.
I thought you were going to go play that football.
Oh, it hurts hearing it. It hurts because that's my mom.
It's my mom. It hurt. It was devastating. In the audiobook, you'll hear my emotion. The audiobook was recorded at Village Studios in West LA. And that part came up, and I had to take a break. I was bawling, man. I was bawling. I could not. It was like 15 minutes of just like breathing exercises and drinking sips of water and trying to regain my composure. And I'm glad that it hit me in a way, because I probably bottled all that up because I promised her, don't worry, my mom, I'm going to be successful one day. Don't worry, my mom, I promise you I'm going to get a degree. Well, I went on to get a fine art degree, and I became successful. So it is what it is.
But not without a bulk of what Chapter 7 is, which is all of a sudden you're
piss
testing. And you're not, I wouldn't say you were being treated the best.
The Montgomery County Adult Probation Office, right, in Norristown, treated me with no dignity. They treated me like shit, like I was a piece of shit criminal. Like, it's the worst feeling in the world, or it was at that time, because I had just lost my future, my scholarship. I lost everything that mattered to me. I was told by my grandmother that I let her down. I was told by my friends, man, we thought you were going to go away. Do you know how hard that is to deal with? At this point, I had already overcome, drugs and alcohol and the lack of a father figure in my life telling me he was proud of me and he loved me. Never went to the movies with my father, never walked down the street. That old birds and the bees talk that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And never had that. It was just alienation, right? Abandonment. I'm dealing with all this stuff, childhood racism, 7 years old, 13 years old, all that stuff, feeling unsafe. And then a crime was committed against me, and then I'm charged and punished for that said crime. And now I have to walk into an office and be treated like shit. I have to do a piss test. Now, in retrospect, honestly, I'm thankful for that, because before I got out of control with drugs and alcohol, I had to cold turkey that shit, right? Because the piss test, if it came back negative or positive, right? Positive is a bad thing concerning a piss test. I would end up in jail. Just like that. Any remnants of any substance, right, in the urine, and I'm gone, right? I don't want that in my life, so I stayed clean, and that was that.
And through that time, you're now essentially a high school dropout.
High school dropout with deep depression, no sense of a future, no opportunities that I can see in front of me. Future was bleak.
You did learn how to make a Reuben, though.
Oh, hell yeah. I got a job at a cafe, a deli.
Mm-hmm.
And, a Reuben sandwich is probably still one of my favorite sandwiches. I didn't even know what a Reuben sandwich was. And then, the manager, the owner, taught me how to make a Reuben, because I saw him making it one day. I was like, what is that? How you going to put coleslaw on top of that? Like, what are you doing, man? He was like, oh, let me show you. And he was like, here, have a bite. I bit into that shit. I was like, the texture, the flavors, it all just hit different, man.
That makes me think of earlier when you're talking about you always thought you were named after an older Jewish man. Nobody makes a Reuben like an older Jewish
at heart, brother.
That's
I'm
right.
Jewish at heart.
That's right. So a big thing in this chapter is we're introduced to another, what I'm going to put in quotes, villain of the story.
Mm-hmm.
That villain is Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you go into great detail of what happens. So we don't necessarily have to go into that. But when a young man gets cheated on
mm-hmm.
for the first time,
mm-hmm.
how does that affect a young man?
Well, I would say a young person.
Oh, sure.
Right? Young man or young woman. It would depend on how they were raised, right? The support system that they have, the self-assurance and confidence that they have to begin with, how much of that they have as a good foundation. But it chips away at it, but it's something that happens. And, my heart goes out to anyone who's ever felt that young love pain. But
specifically for a athlete,
mm-hmm.
for someone of affluence, to someone who suddenly becomes a doctor or something like that,
mm-hmm.
a new threat emerges that is essentially, the trap of women or men you might not,
mm-hmm.
probably shouldn't be associating with, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that trap? Is that a real thing that can happen and can really derail a person? Is it something to really watch out for?
I think a person on the rise is someone who is destined to do something great. I think people in general like to be around people that do amazing things, right? So when a young woman or a young man, attaches themselves to someone who potentially is going to have an amazing career, maybe make a lot of money, be in certain circles, that's attractive. And I think that's attractive to anyone who's secure in their self, right? It becomes a little twisted when that person doesn't have something in their life that is, of value, right? Something that they can focus on. And I'm not saying give up, but they see an easier way of life, connecting themselves to someone who potentially could have an opportunity to make a lot of money, right? Their life becomes easier by being in association with that person. I think that that's something that's in human nature that is bewildering to a lot of people, but I get it. I do get it. I do think the trap is real. I do think it comes in many different forms, not just the young women attaching themselves to athletes,
mm-hmm.
right? I think young men and women, take part in activities that, connect to other people that ensure that they'll have a better life, right? So,
yeah, essentially it's like you're escalating your position in life by proxy.
Sure.
Right? You're not actually doing the thing.
Sure.
You're doing it by proxy. But this one's particularly tough because eventually you get, as you put it, hit right in the fatherhood chin.
Oh, yeah. 22 years old, became a father at 22. And that was hard to hear, right? I after my scholarship was taken from me, after I got through the adult probation, after I got my shit together, I was still partying, right? Hanging out at night, but I was still okay, right? Deep depression, but I was okay. I was willing to just push through any and all trauma. I don't give a shit. I dealt with a lot of deep, heavy depression, but I always got up out of bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was different. A lot of people don't have that ability. Depression takes everything from them, and they can't get out of bed, and they can't do general tasks. It's hard, but I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I was able to still get up, go have a good time with my buddies at night, drink, do drugs, and start it all over again the next day. But one particular day, I was laying on my mom's couch, and boom, boom, boom at the door. And a friend of mine named Kenny, played Little League football with him. And he had left Norristown and became a coach at a junior college. And he was like, Lenny, get up, man. Get up. You're too talented to be on your mom's couch, man. Get out of your mom's house. Come play football for me at the junior college. And I was like, yeah, another opportunity. Let's go. Doing something I love. And started working out, training, stopped hanging out with my buddies who were doing drugs and drinking all the time. What's really cool is I started to really feel like remnants of the old me, right? Lenny's back, right? Working out, running, getting stronger. Sort of like that song in Rocky, right? Getting strong. Yeah. Right? And I was getting ready to leave, man. My mom comes up to me. I'm sitting on the porch, and she comes up. We had a little side, on the porch, there was a railing, and then there was the yard. She walked down the path, hung over the railing, and said, "Hey, baby, I know you're getting ready to go play college football, and I'm proud of you, but I need to tell you something. Kathy's pregnant." I said, "Mom, ain't got nothing to do with me. I broke up with her 4 months ago." She said, "Baby, I know. I'm sorry, but she's 4 months pregnant. She just never told you." So I call her up. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I said, "Well, look, it ain't mine. Yeah, I broke up with you 4 months ago." She's like, "It is yours. You're the only one I've been with." I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to go play college football." And she was like, "Well, you're leaving me and the baby." That hit me in the fatherhood chin.
You have a line there.
You know that hit me because of my lack of father figures in my life. So
you literally say a lot of this was your refusal to be the deadbeat dads that you had. So not only is your character is in play here of who you have built yourself up. Absolutely. Am I going to be a repeat of what I
thus far? Yeah. And I was 22. I was 22. And I had to make a decision, right? You know that Adele song?
Sure.
Go Easy on Me. You know that one?
I'm thinking. All I have is From the Other Side.
Baby, I was still a child.
Well, yeah, I got that
chance I didn't get the chance to feel the world around me.
You were busy rolling in the deep.
I was rolling in the deep. There he is. But yeah, character was in play. And I had to make a decision.
You also, there's an interesting part of this chapter where you go over what your American dream was, and
at that time,
and it's very interesting. It is, yes, there's a big house, yes, there's cars, yes, there's money. In fact, you clarify, a shitload of money, but it's not filled with hoes and friends.
It's not a bachelor pad.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a bachelor pad. It is a house filled with love.
Yeah.
With your wife and your kids next to you. And that's always been in your vision. Now, you're saying that as a 22-year-old.
You know, when at 22, I knew that I lacked a traditional family, right? 2 parents who loved me, who guided me through life, taught me everything they knew, right? So that I can go on to teach my kids what I knew, right? Through them. I didn't have the traditional father figure. I didn't have that love from a father in my life. I had nothing. I had none of that shit. I had a mother who cared, you know, a grandmother who cared. I had a grandfather who cared and some uncles and family members who, you know, did things for me. Cousins like Nimmy, right? I had people that cared about me, but I didn't have a father figure that cared about me. So I knew I wanted to have something that I didn't have. Sort of like when you grow up poor. You're poor. As soon as you get some money, you go out and get the things that you never had. It's the same thing. You know, I knew that I wanted a family one day. I wanted to give someone all that I knew. I wanted to love someone. You know, I was seeking love at that point, and the only way to seek love is to be open to it. And even though I was scarred by not having a father figure, I was open to love. And that's why I wanted what I wanted at that time.
So there's a couple of things in this chapter where I kind of start to see glimpses of who you would become. One is when you become the bouncer at Hula Hands.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a line in there where you're talking about au pairs that would visit, and you seeing this other side, because you're in King of Prussia now.
Right.
And you seeing this other side of, you say, I see these girls that are from Finland, from Europe, these au pairs that came in, not like plain types that you were used to. And it was opening your eyes to, oh, maybe I should shoot for these stars here. So my question is, how important is it to experience the other side once in a while if you're in a position like you were in, not really knowing much about outside of Norristown?
It's incredibly important to experience the other side of anything, whether it be through politics, whether it be through sports, right? You play offense, well, try defense. I think that at that time I was dating young American girls, right? And that was my experience. And then all of a sudden, I met this girl from Finland. I met this other girl from Norway. And I was like, wow, like, they're different. Of course they're different. They're from another country, right? And so I think that, you know, that carries over into travel, right? Culture.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that, you know, people should get out of their neighborhoods and venture out. Just go, you know, plan it. And the best way to plan it is to log on the internet, right? Plan a trip, and then email AAA to ask them what they think of your plan, and they'll help you out.
There's some advice for you, kids.
I did that across the country. We drove from Philly to Seattle, and we mapped it all out, places we wanted to stay, and then we contacted AAA. And AAA said, oh, your route's pretty good. You should try this, and just gentle recommendations, and it was great.
Do you also recommend that young men should put on a suit and be a bouncer for a couple of days, see what that looks like?
I think young men or women.
Yeah.
I had a great time at Hula Hands, man.
It sounded like it, and that's what I mean. I started to see the glimpse of the man I know now, of a fun guy who knows how to handle himself in any situation. So I have one other question about this chapter that was very interesting to me, and it's the blood test scene. So there's a part of the story where you're asking Kathy for a blood test, and
her father,
who you had known as a quiet, friendly guy, suddenly has a cold grip on the back of your neck.
He went to Notre Dame University, you know, rest in peace. He was a good man. I love Frank. I mean, he was, at the time, he was a father figure to me when I dated his daughter. And it was kind of crazy because, I mean, he was just, him and his wife, just the nicest people. Sweet, sweet people. I'd be over their house all the time. You know, Frank and Jerry Barnes, amazing people. They taught me a lot, you know. Jerry, specifically speaking, taught me a little bit of sophistication, right? I'd be over, it's dinner time. I always ate with them at dinner, you know. In high school, I would go over to their house afterwards, do my homework, and hang out. And Frank would give me a ride home every night. They were there for me when I needed somebody to be there for me. They kind of mellowed me out and balanced me out. And Jerry would teach me how to use a knife and a fork properly, right? She taught me how to always say yes, please, and thank you. Even though my mom taught me manners, Jerry kicked it up a notch.
Yeah.
So Kathy was an Irish girl. Here I am learning from her mother the proper way to eat, use a knife and a fork, and, how to properly use yes, please, and thank you. Right? And so Frank, oh, my God, brilliant mind. We'd watch Jeopardy every night. And I'd get a few, but he got every one. So brilliant, brilliant family. He was a student at Notre Dame. He was studying to be a priest. Right? So his whole demeanor was just very soft and kind. And that particular day came and he said, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's walk down the front path." I never heard that before. Let's take a walk down the front path. And he put his hand on the back of my neck and he squeezed it. And he said, "What's this blood test thing you want to talk about? The baby is yours." And I never felt that before. I never had, someone who was soft and sweet and kind basically grip me up in the most kind way.
It's such a small part of the book, but it's like, oh, that's something.
Yeah.
That is something.
And he said, I dropped the subject. And I dropped the subject. Now, here's something that's not in the book. I said to myself then and there, okay, I'll drop it. I'll be a good father to my son. And when he's 18, I will ask him for a blood test. And I did that. And I did that. And he was like, yeah, sure, cool. And because my son, he's a man. He's like, yo, what's up? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. And he was like, wait, blood test. What, you don't think you're my dad? And he got like choked up, right? I was like, what you mean? He was like, what do you need a blood test for, man? Like, you don't think you're my dad? And I said, no. I am your dad. I know I'm your dad. And I'm sorry to ask you, but the fact is, when you were a baby and just born, your grandfather gripped me up and he told me to drop the subject because I wanted a blood test when you were a baby. And he told me to drop the subject, and I did. I was an honorable man. And so basically, I'm asking you as a man, because you're 18 now, will you give me a blood test just to make sure? And he started crying, man. And that made me cry. And I hugged him. I was like, look, dude, no matter the results, I promise you, I'll be the same. I'll be your father for the rest of your life. He was like, all right, cool. He gave me it was a saliva test. It wasn't a blood test. Mm-hmm. It was a saliva test. And he gave me the test. And guess what? 99.9%. He's my son. I'm his dad. It's all good.
That is how chapter 7 ends, with the birth of Devin, and Lenny's a dad now.
Amen.
We'll see you in chapter 8.